You're welcome to go ahead and start. Thank you.
Hello, this is Nelson Wynn. I'm with the Alabama Extension. I also have Chris Becker on with us. We are the moderators for this section of the webinar. And I'd like to welcome everybody to this webinar. Let's beat the bug, new things to know about bed bugs. We have our speaker today is Amelia Shindelar. She is her main area is public health. She's also at the Department of Entomology at the University of Minnesota. I'll turn it over to you now, Amelia.
Thank you, Nelson. As Nelson mentioned, my name is Amelia, and I'm out of the Department of Entomology at the University of Minnesota. My background is in public health and community organizing, and what I do here at the University of Minnesota is do outreach for the community on bed bug prevention and control education. I'm standing in today for Dr. Stephen Kells, who is our bed bug expert and research scientist. Unfortunately, he had another overlapping commitment at the same time. So also I wanted to let everyone know that this is my, I usually do most of my speaking in person, so I'm not super familiar with the webinar technology, so hopefully everything goes smoothly, but if I mess up, it's my fault completely and not the organizers. So we'll go ahead and get started. As Nelson mentioned, our program at the University of Minnesota is called Let's Beat the Bug, and what we do is we take the latest and greatest scientific research and try to translate that into materials that are available and accessible to the general public so they can work towards eliminating bed bugs either in their residences or places of business. So I'm going to run through a number of numbers to start with, just kind of show you what our program looks like and what we work on, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the findings from Dr. Kells and others' research programs on bed bugs, and finally I'll finish up with a little bit of kind of the strategy that we look at when working on eliminating bed bug infestations. So the main work that I do here is public education, and I've been doing this for 4 years now. And here in Minnesota, we've worked with over 800 people on in-person trainings, and so this is anywhere from just a brief hour presentation with, say, a individual who's going out into the community as a community health so like a public health, someone that's doing home visiting and working with people in their homes, and they're wanting to help their clients who have bed bug infestations too. We've done a number of entire day-long sessions where we go really into depth with people that are looking for more information on how to control bed bugs. We also have a service here. It's called the information line, and what this is essentially just a phone number, which I'll bring up at the end, but it's got, we're here to answer the general public's questions on bed bug prevention and control, and over the last 4 years, we've answered almost 3,000 inquiries. The majority of those are via telephone, but we also get emails, and then we also get people sending in specimens that they need identified, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the presentation today as well. We've also produced what we call task sheets. So essentially this is the traditional fact sheet that you see in agricultural entomology, but we've taken it and we've really shortened it and tried to make it usable for the general public. So when you're working with like a farmer or someone who is working on issues with pest control in fields, or a pest management professional, or someone who is dealing with pests on a professional level, they're really going to come at this as, at a different level than someone who is, the general public, say an apartment tenant, or someone who's just looking for some basic information on bed bug prevention and control. So what we've done is we've tried to really simplify the information and make it usable to someone who, might not have English as their primary language, or who might just not have the education or the reading skills to be reading really scientific information. And so our goal has been to take this information that we have in the scientific literature and make it accessible to the general public. And with that, we've taken 8 of our most popular fact sheets and translated them into a number of other languages. You can see here on the screen that we have Arabic, Hmong, Spanish, and Somali. And these languages were chosen because of our target audiences here in Minnesota. We have pretty large immigrant populations that speak these languages. And then Modern Standard Arabic was chosen because we have a number of smaller immigrant populations that might speak Arabic as a second language, whereas their first language is a small local or tribal dialect, and we were able to reach a much broader audience by translating into Arabic as opposed to these smaller dialects. And then we also have, with that, a lot of audiovisual materials on our website that is accessible to the general public. So I wanted to talk next a little bit about some of the top questions that we get and what kind of things people are looking for and asking us about. So when people call into the information line, the most common question is, how do I get rid of bed bugs on my own? A lot of people don't realize when they're calling us that if they live in, and this is in Minnesota specific, but I think that it applies to a lot of parts of the country, but in general, if you live in rental housing, it is your landlord's responsibility to provide pest control. So we get a lot of phone calls from people who are looking for information on how to control bed bugs on their own, either not realizing that it's not their responsibility to do that control, or being in a situation where their landlord is not taking care of the situation properly, or people who they own their home but they can't afford to have professional control of bed bugs. And then what we talk about the most when people call us on the information line is we do talk a lot about do-it-yourself methods for bed bug control. So this isn't, we're not talking to people about going out and buying a can of Raid or other over-the-counter insecticides. We're talking to people about doing things like decluttering their living spaces, putting their clothing and linens through the laundry to kill bed bugs with heat, using freezing in some in particular cases. So things like this. We really discourage the use of over-the-counter insecticides as we don't find them to be effective in controlling bed bugs. We also spend a lot of time talking to people just about basic bed bug biology and behavior. There's a lot of misunderstanding of bed bugs. You still see a lot of urban myths around things like, bed bugs always bite in a line of threes, or in a line or in patterns, and so we spend a lot of time just talking to people about some of the basic information and trying to dispel some of their myths. We really encourage people to hire a pest management professional. Despite all the effort and the work we've put into developing information on how to control bed bugs on your own, or at least how to reduce bed bugs in your living space on your own, we really do think that hiring a pest management professional, if you can afford it, is the best way to control a bed bug infestation. Then we talk about prevention information. So this is sometimes we get people who are calling us up simply with questions about how to prevent bed bugs. Other times we talk about prevention information in the context of controlling an infestation. So what do you do once you've had a bed bug control treatment, and what do you do to prevent bed bugs in the future? And then we frequently refer people to an organization here in Minnesota called Homeline. Homeline is a legal aid organization, but they specialize in the tenant-landlord relationship. So like I said, we get a lot of people who don't realize that it's not, as a tenant, it's not their responsibility to be controlling pests in their living quarters, and so we refer them to Homeline for legal advice because we're not lawyers and we can't provide that legal advice to them. The next thing I wanted to show you real briefly is just some of the statistics from our website. So we have this website that we've put together, and I'll show you a picture of it in a minute here, but it's just bedbugs@umn.edu, and this is really kind of the main portal for us for sharing our information. We've put a lot of information out, via in-person presentations, but having the website really helps us reach a really wide audience. So you can see here just some statistics. We had over 700,000 people visit our website last year, and a lot of those were most of those were within the United States, but we also have a pretty large international audience, and that comes from having done the translation work. So we're looking at about 2,000 people a day visiting our website. Oops, I forgot to advance the slide. There we go. So this is a screenshot here that shows kind of the front page of the website. It's pretty basic. We try to keep it simple, but one of the things that we've done that I think is kind of unique is we have set it up. Let me find I can point this out. So we've set it up here along the top where you can see here. Whoops, sorry, I'm not very good at drawing there. So in this area here, each of these, if this was the live website, you'd be able to click on this here where it says homeowners or tenants or property owners and managers. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to split things up by audience. So if you're coming to the website and you own your home and you have questions about how to control bed bugs in your home, hopefully you would click on this link here, and that would bring you directly to information on bed bug prevention and control for someone that owns their home. Over here we have a link for pest management professionals, and this is where we house the more kind of in-depth, detailed information for individuals who work in the pest management field. And then we also have things, like I was talking about earlier, we do a lot of work with people who are working in other people's homes, who do home visiting for social services or public health, and so we have information for them here. So we've really tried to split things up in a way that would allow people to find the information as quickly as possible and go about their day with the information that they need. So again, just real quick on some of what people are looking for. So the most commonly visited page we have is laundering items to kill bed bugs. So this again is talking about some of those do-it-yourself methods for how you can kill bed bugs with the materials you already have at home. We have this other page, what not to do when you have bed bugs, that gets a lot of visits. And so this is just, again, we emphasize not using over-the-counter insecticides, not using flammable materials like kerosene or alcohol in attempts to kill bed bugs, and not putting your items outside in the winter to try and kill bed bugs. We do talk about using freezing conditions to kill bed bugs, but this is in a controlled environment in a freezer, not outside. And then again, we get a lot of visits from people who are traveling and want to know how to look for bed bugs in their hotel room. So the common messages we use, and this is really important to us, is we try to have a common theme throughout all of our materials and messaging, and it's really important to us to let people know that bed bugs are beatable. You can take care of it. We get a lot of calls and a lot of emails from people who maybe have tried 4 or 5 things already to control the bed bug infestation in their home, and they're starting to feel pretty desperate, and they just don't know what to do. And especially with some of the information that's floating around on the internet, people start feeling pretty quickly that that bed bugs are impossible, that once you get bed bugs, you're going to have them forever. And we really try to emphasize that no, that's not true. You can get rid of bed bugs, and here's what you need to do to get rid of them. As I mentioned earlier, we really emphasize hiring a pest management professional if at all possible. This is something a lot of people want to avoid just because of the cost. A lot of people think they can completely get rid of bed bugs on their own, and sometimes it is possible to control a bed bug infestation on your own, but it really takes a lot of work and a lot of commitment that sometimes individuals who are living with the infestation are not willing to put into controlling it. Another thing that we emphasize a lot is the need for use of multiple different types of insecticides when using chemicals to control bed bugs. So one of the things that we see the most often with failed control procedures is that a pest management professional will come in and just do a real quick spray of maybe a short-acting insecticide, and this will, might knock down the levels of the infestation briefly, but it's not going to control it. And so with all the audiences that we work with, we emphasize the need for these really thorough, in-depth inspection and control procedures, and they really do need to use multiple different types of insecticides. And this has to do with, where bed bugs are hiding and what they're going to come into contact with. So one of the things we look at is what do people want? When people are coming to us looking for information, what is it that they're looking for and what do they need? And what we've found, as I mentioned earlier, is more often than not, people are looking for reassurance that what they're doing is going to be successful. Like I mentioned, we get a lot of people who are really worried that they're never going to be able to get rid of this bed bug infestation, and just need someone to talk them through what it is that they need to do to deal with the infestation. We also, being in the position that we're in and having a public-facing website and service, we get a lot of people calling in who are just frustrated with their landlords and frustrated with the lack of action on the part of the property owners in dealing with bed bugs. And so, unfortunately, there's generally not a lot that we can do about that. We can talk to people about, what the responsibility of the property owner or manager is, but that's where we end up referring people to a legal aid or to Homeline a lot. We'll also get people who are looking for information on what we see as best practices for pest management professionals. As I mentioned in my earlier slide, we really like to see pest management professionals using 3 different types of insecticides in their control efforts. And people have a lot of questions about the best way to control bed bugs and if what's being done in their homes or apartments is really the best way to go about it. And so we talk to a lot of people about the way the control procedures have been conducted and whether or not we think that was a thorough control job or not. And then we also get a lot of people looking for advice on which pest control company to hire, and we generally avoid making any recommendations for specific pest control companies. We talk to individuals about what to look for in a reputable pest control service. So as you go about your work and what some of the things that we recommend people are looking out for and paying attention to when they're dealing with the general public or when they're dealing with bed bugs is that we get a lot of issues with misidentification. And so I've mentioned this briefly earlier. One of the things that we do is people can send in their samples of what they think is a bed bug, and we'll have Dr. Kells look at it and he can tell you whether or not it's a bed bug or not. 80% of the things that we get sent to us are not bed bugs, and they're not even close to being bed bugs. We get a lot of dust and pieces of just general household trash that people think are bed bugs. If it's on a bed or anywhere close to a bed and looks like a bug, then, especially with the bed bugs being so much in the news these days and really kind of the big thing in the pest world for the last 10 years or so, if you see it on a bed, people are automatically assuming that it's a bed bug. And one of the things that we do in some of our public education work is we go through a series of pictures and ask people, do you think this is a bed bug or not? And, like I said, the vast majority of the time it's not. We also get people sending in other insects. So it's not just, fluff or dust bunnies. It's also things like, we've gotten a grasshopper once. We've gotten a lot of carpet beetles, a lot of other bugs, a lot of larvae from various different insects. But then occasionally we get things like bat bugs or swallow bugs. And for those of you that aren't familiar with, really familiar with bed bugs, bat bugs are another insect that are in the same family as the bed bug, and they look almost exactly the same. The only way to tell them apart is by putting them under a microscope and looking at the length of the hair around their heads. And this is, so sometimes we even get pest management professionals misidentifying bat bugs and bed bugs. And the issue here is that the way you're going to control is very different depending on what type of insect it is. If it's a bat bug, you're really going to need to figure out if there's a bat infestation and control that bat infestation before you can control the bat bug infestation. Bat bugs do, as the name implies, they do bite bats and live with bats more than humans, but they will come and bite humans if the bats are no longer present or if the infestation has gotten really large. And we see this a lot here in Minnesota, especially in northern Minnesota, where people have summer cabins or summer properties, and they'll close it down for the winter, come back in the spring, and they'll think they have a bed bug infestation, and really they might be dealing with a bat bug situation. So that's something we really like to emphasize is before you do anything in relationship to a bed bug infestation, we really want you to make sure that it is a bed bug infestation that you're dealing with and not something else, because you really want to target your control procedures to the correct insect. Another thing we see a lot when we're working with landlords or property owners is that they might be working in a situation where they're going to choose the least expensive pest control company. They'll put their work out for a bid, and they're going to choose someone who is the least expensive, and that makes sense some ways economically. But we'll talk a little bit later on today about, like I said, about the strategy of bed bug control. And if you're choosing the least expensive operator, you're most likely not getting the best service, and this in the end can end up being more expensive than having chosen the more expensive control job at the beginning. So we see a lot of incomplete or poor bed bug control work, and that can really spread the problem. And then we also see conflicting information, both on, like I said, on the internet and information that's being given out by different organizations, but also sometimes pest control companies, pest management companies will give out information. Maybe they're trying to sell a heat treatment, and so they'll tell their client that you really don't want to use chemicals because it's really highly toxic and it's going to be really bad for your health. Or maybe it's a company that's trying to sell a chemical control, and so they're going to tell their clients that, oh, well, you really don't want to use heat because it's going to cause a bunch of damage to your property. And so we really are trying to discourage this type of work. We really want the pest management professionals to really, to work together and providing the public with the best information available and not be out spreading, incorrect information. If you are a pest management professional and you're working in the bed bug control field, we really recommend that you are working with Pest World and with the National Pest Management Association. We refer people to pestworld.org as a place to find reputable companies for doing bed bug control, and I think that it's a good website with information for both the pest management professional and the general public. And we also really like to encourage people to be a member of their local pest management association. We think it's it's good for the industry, and it's good for the company. It helps you get a wider audience, and they can help you with things like training and best management practices. So now we're going to talk a little bit about strategy and what to look for when you're doing bed bug control, or when you're shopping around for someone to do your bed bug control, or if you just want to know what to look for. So one of the things that we really emphasize and that we found a lot in our research is that bed bugs have evolved and developed behaviors that help them to live with humans. So one of the questions we get a lot is, where did bed bugs come from, and why do we have so many bed bugs right now? And that gets us into talking about how bed bugs actually have been around and have been a human pest since most likely since the days when human ancestors lived in caves, and they've really been around for millennia. But we're seeing a resurgence recently because of a number of things around mobility and social structures. But because bed bugs have spent thousands of years evolving to live with humans, they really have these behaviors that allow them to take advantage of our behavior. So bed bugs, as most people know, I think, feed on people when they're sleeping or preoccupied. So you don't always have to be asleep for a bed bug to feed on you. It's definitely their preferred time to feed on a person, but they will come out and bite someone, say if that person is watching television and really not paying attention and not moving around much. They'll adjust their feeding schedule to the schedule of the person living in that room. So let's say you are living in an apartment and you work a night shift, and you come home and sleep during the day. While bed bugs traditionally and typically bite people in the middle of the night, in your apartment, if you're only home during the day and you're sleeping during the day, those bed bugs will shift their feeding schedule to feed on and bite on you during the day when you're sleeping. When one of the things, so bed bugs come out and they bite you and they feed and they go back into hiding, and most people react to a bed bug bite, and you can see here there's a number of pictures from this website, holidayinbedbugs.com, where these individuals have been bitten by bed bugs and shared their pictures of what those bites look like. One of the things that we see a lot, though, and that can cause a lot of issues, is that not everyone reacts to a bed bug infestation or to a bed bug bite. So about 25% of the population, or 1 in 4 people, don't have any reaction to bed bug bites at all. And as you get older in age, that actually increases. So above, I think it's above 60 or 65, the number of people who don't react to a bed bug infestation increases to about 50%. And this becomes a big issue in situations where you have, like, say, a senior living complex, where individuals in this senior living complex or in a nursing home are not reacting to a bed bug infestation or not realizing that they have this infestation. It really allows the infestation to spread. You also get into situations where it takes people a long time to realize they have an infestation because maybe it's a couple, and it's 2 people sleeping in the bed, and the husband is reacting to the bed bug bites and the wife is not, and so then you get a lot of questioning back and forth of, well, what's going on here? Why is one person having these bite marks and somebody isn't? And so they spend a lot of time exploring other possible explanations for the bites before they get to figuring out that it's bed bugs, and by that point you might have seen the bed bug infestation spread to other rooms, and the control treatment becomes a lot more complicated. Also, bed bugs don't necessarily have to locate a sleeping person to get close to where that person is going to be later. This is a picture of a dirty sock, and what's going on here is that these bed bugs have identified this sock as being potentially close to a future host, and they are sitting there waiting for the person to come back. So this kind of started, having found situations like this where bed bugs are aggregating on material that is not actually close to a sleeping person but might smell like a sleeping person, got Dr. Kells and his grad students to start on some research. And what they did is they did what we lovingly call the dirty sock experiment, where they had different individuals put these discs or these round pieces of fabric between their sock and their foot, and they would wear them for about 8 hours a day, and then this this piece of fabric became what we call conditioned, so it smelled like a person now. And they took these pieces of fabric and put them in an arena with bed bugs, and were able to show with some tracking technology that the bed bugs consistently were more attracted to the smelly sock pieces of fabric than to any of the other things in the arena. And this proved that bed bugs are, being attracted to the smells that people leave behind and not just to the people themselves. And so what this allows the bed bug to do then is it allows them to find those materials that smell like people and hang out there and wait until a person comes back. And one of the issues that we've seen in control jobs is that you get into a situation where you do a control procedure for bed bugs, but you come back and the infestation is still present, and you're having a hard time figuring out why. And one of the things we saw was that say in a situation like this, in this picture we have here, these are a bunch of winter coats and suit jackets, and these aren't things that people launder on a regular basis. You might wear your suit coat 10 or 15 times before you end up sending it into the dry cleaner, or you might wear your winter coat all winter and then put it in storage for the summer. And the bed bugs are going to be attracted to those, to the smells that we're leaving behind on those materials. And so knowing this and understanding this will really help us emphasize and know how important it is to do a really thorough control job and to be doing control procedures not just in the bedroom and not just on the easy chair, but in the entire room or the entire apartment. So that thoroughness and that completeness of doing doing a control procedure is really important. It also is leading to some research on, what specifically is it that is attractive to the bed bugs, and Dr. Kells and his research partners are working on trying to figure out what chemicals precisely are the bed bugs looking for, and is there something that we can use in the future to trap the bed bugs, or to attract the bed bugs, possibly for a trap or monitoring or some other purpose. So this is still, many years down the line as far as research goes, but it's definitely got a lot of potential. So then again, in a bed type situation, we're leaving behind on our beds when we sleep sweat and pheromones and pheromones, which are different chemicals that the bed bugs can smell. And so this helps the bed bugs know where to hide and where to aggregate. And then what that leads to is the bed bugs are going to find these hiding spots that they assume are close to where people rest and sleep, and they're going to mark these spots with their fecal matter. And what we've found here is that bed bugs, not only are they attracted to the scents that we as people leave behind, they're also attracted to the chemicals in their fecal matter. And so what this means is that once a bed bug marks a hiding spot, that hiding spot becomes attractive to other bed bugs. And so you can see in this next slide here, this is a mattress, and you can see up here, let me try drawing again, you can see here the bed bugs have marked this mattress with this black fecal matter, and it's now attractive and to the other bed bugs, and they know, well, this is a good place to hide. If I come and I hide here and wait, it's most likely that a human is going to come back here and hide and sleep, and it's close to a meal for me, so I'll just hang out here with my other bed bug friends until we can get a meal. And so this characteristic, so now we not only have bed bugs being attracted to our scents, they're also attracted to their own scents, and they're setting up these aggregation points in these hiding spots. Another thing to remember when we're thinking about bed bug behavior is that bed bugs specialize in hiding. Bed bugs spend about 90% of their lifetime in hiding. This picture here is of a wall outlet, and the cover of the outlet has been removed, and you can see here there's the fecal spotting, which is attracting the bed bugs to this hiding spot, and then also down here you can see the cast skin. So when a bed bug grows from one life stage to another, they shed their skin, kind of similar to a snake sheds their skin as they grow. And so this shows us that this is now it's an attractive spot for the bed bugs to hide, and they've set up their nest here essentially, and are reproducing and laying eggs and increasing the infestation. So here we have these insects that are not only good at finding us, they're good at setting up hiding places near where we're going to be resting and sleeping, and kind of coming out and taking I don't want to say taking advantage, but biting people when we're at kind of our most vulnerable, when we're sleeping. And I think this is one of the issues we run into. Why people find bed bug infestation so upsetting is that they the idea of having a bug biting you while you're in bed is really, psychologically is really upsetting to a lot of people. So what this also means is that one of the things you need to think about when you're dealing with bed bug infestation is that the more complex the environment, the more complex the control treatment is going to need to be. So in a situation like this, where you have all this clutter, all of these places become potential hiding spots for bed bugs, and it makes it really complicated to do that control procedure. So one of the things we talk to people about a lot is the need to declutter and clean their living spaces as they're working through their bed bug control issues. And then finally, as the bed bug infestation builds, so as the bed bugs have established these nests, these aggregation points, the infestation is going to start spreading. So here we have, this is the bottom side of a box spring. I don't, if you can kind of see, this is where the box spring was sitting against the metal bed frame. And this is where, this is in an apartment that we were working in, and this is kind of where they think the bed bug infestation started. And then we'll go back to this picture that we saw earlier. This is the same bed, and now you can see they've moved from that initial infestation site here on the bottom of the box spring, which was really hard to see and really hard to find. They've been in this apartment for quite a while now, and they've spread their infestation to the top of the mattress. And only at this point did the individual living in the unit recognize that they had an infestation. And, they'd also spread to other parts of the apartment by the time that they noticed that this was going on. So the next thing to keep in mind is you can see bed bugs are pretty complex. Not only are their behaviors in relationship to us complex, but their communication between themselves is quite complex. Here we have a group of bed bugs, and they've developed these what are called stage identifying pheromones. So essentially it's scents that the bed bugs, they can, different smells that's how they communicate. And so all these nymphs and all these young bed bugs are giving off a smell that's telling the male bed bugs, I'm not a female, don't try to mate with me. And then they also, if that doesn't work, they have these anti-sex pheromones where if the male is trying to mate with the non-receptive nymphs or females, these anti-sex pheromones are telling the males, hey, leave me alone, I'm not a female. And the reason that they're doing this is because bed bug mating is what's called it's called traumatic insemination. And so what happens is the adult male bed bug has essentially a needle-like apparatus on his abdomen, which he uses to stab the female and inseminate her that way. And it's quite, it can be quite damaging, especially to young bed bugs. So what's going on is the nymphs need to be able to communicate to the males that they're not a receptive adult female. Then once they've grown into adults and are receptive to being mated, the female only wants to be mated a small number of times before her fitness is reduced. So if you have a female bed bug that's been mated more than 4 or 5 times, her ability to produce eggs is going to be reduced as well, because she's spending all of her energy on essentially recovering from this traumatic insemination event. So because of this, she is more likely to leave the aggregation site and spread the infestation. And once a female has been mated a number of times, like I said, she's going to leave and spread that infestation. And it's in her best interest to not stay in those aggregation sites that we were talking about earlier, the areas on that mattress where we showed a bunch of fecal spotting. And then we're getting into how the bed bugs are spreading their infestation. So the females are going to start looking for pathways or ways to move from one nest site or one promising hiding spot to the next. And a lot of times they're carried on our stuff. This is a picture of a backpack, and you can see here on the backpack, this is not a very good picture, but these in this area here and here, these are bed bugs that are living on this backpack and are being carried around to different places and starting new infestation sites. But a lot of times you also, you most often hear about bed bugs being moved around on furniture or on, used clothing or things like that. And so that's the most common way for bed bugs to move around, but we've also have a lot of evidence that bed bugs are going to move from one infestation site to another simply by walking. This picture is from an apartment that we visited where this is the entry door into the apartment, and you can see that the bed bugs have set up a pretty substantial infestation right at the entrance to the apartment. And here, this is the fecal spotting from a pretty large bed bug infestation. And this is out here is the hallway, so the bed bugs were able to move right from this apartment into the hallway and essentially walk down the hall and into the apartment, into the neighboring apartment, spreading the infestation. So this slide is one that Dr. Kells uses to talk about what kind of got him started on thinking about the different pathways that bed bugs use to spread their infestation. I'm going to kind of skip over it real quick because we've got quite a bit to go and I'm running out of time here. But essentially what happened is Dr. Kells went to a conference and stayed in a hotel room and had a bed bug infestation, and it really got him thinking about how is that bed bug infestation spreading within the hotel. So there are all these different ways that bed bug infestations are spreading in the hotel, not just from, not just the guests bringing them into the room and taking them out again to start new infestations, but, them moving around in the hotel on soiled and clean linens, maybe tour buses, luggage, different staff. And so there's just a really complex situation with bed bugs coming in and out of hotel rooms. And then that got us thinking again, because we work a lot in residences and homes, how does that work in this type of situation? So in a home, if the home is infested and then the individuals in the home are coming and going and they're going to, possibly taking the bed bugs to school with them or out to a restaurant or getting recycled furniture. So bed bugs can come and go in all of these different ways. And then if you start looking at your community, it becomes really complex really quickly. Not only are we having to deal with bed bug infestations in individual homes, it's a whole system that we're having to look at and deal with. So the bed bug's weakness is it's a boom or bust lifestyle. They either do really well or they're doing really well. They're really infesting a lot of homes and that infestation is really growing, or we're able to hopefully we're able to get around that infestation and deal with it. So the key here is that this is dependent for the bed bug on finding new sites to infest, not just within a single home or within a single apartment, but also within the community as a whole. So the key really, like I said, is going to be stopping those new infestation sites, getting around the infestation and not letting it spread. We don't want to be fighting fires. We really, individual fires, we really want to be looking at the entire system and dealing with it as a whole. So I'm going to try and run through this scenario pretty quickly here. It's so we can hopefully have some time for questions at the end. But let's think about an apartment building that has 4 floors, and each of those floors has 8 apartments. So this is kind of a basic schematic that's supposed to, each of these blocks is supposed to represent an apartment. So there's a bed bug infestation. Each of these yellow blocks that shows up is going to be a bed bug infestation, and the bed bugs are introduced into the apartment complex. We don't really know how. Let's say maybe somebody bought a used couch, and that's how the bed bugs first entered the apartment complex. How they got there is not really important. It's what happens afterwards. They spread across the hall, and then maybe this is an apartment complex where say an immigrant community lives, and it's a tight-knit community, and there's a lot of visiting back and forth between the various apartments, and so this infestation is spreading from one apartment to the next. And it's spread by either, through wall ducts or down the hallway or from people visiting one another. And so we've got this, each of these apartments now is infested. And only, after we've gotten a number of infestations does someone finally recognize that there is a problem. And these 2 apartments here, the ones that are in red now, have reported their infestation to the property management. So the property management comes in and does a control procedure. But in the meantime, we have additional infestations. And then again, the ones in red are reporting the infestation. So as we go along, additional apartments are getting infected and the control procedures are being done, but they're not being successful. And so finally, the apartment management decides that they need to, they've gone through and they've they've gotten a lot of complaints, and so they decided they need to inspect all the apartments in the complex. And what they end up with is they find that not only were the places that were being reported infested, but that all these other apartments also have unreported infestations in them. So the solution is to inspect adjacent areas. So if you have this, this is apartment number 1, and it reports the bedbug infestation. As soon as that apartment number 1 reports that they have an infestation, you want to go in and treat that infestation, but you also want to inspect all the surrounding apartments. And with each additional inspection, as you find a infested unit, you're going to want to inspect all the surrounding apartments, not just to the left and the right, but also across the hall and above and below, because there's a lot of evidence showing that bed bugs are going to move within the complex and infest various, the surrounding apartments. So you're going to continue along this line until you get around the infestation. So now you started here. We started here with just one infestation, but as we inspected surrounding, we found that these 3 additional ones were also infested. So if we had done that in this original apartment complex, or the scenario that we talked about, if they had, when this original person reported their infestation, if they had treated the infestation and then also inspected the surrounding apartments, they would have found, they would have inspected and found these other infested apartments. Quickly going through all of the entire complex, they would have been able to treat the infested apartments and get around the overall infestation. And so then what you end up with is you end up treating 7 apartments, and the tenants in the apartment complex are now aware of the situation and are going to be hopefully going to be more proactive in taking control of the situation. So you've got greater attention to living spaces. You've got your residents paying more attention to what's going around them. They're going to take more care, hopefully, with their personal belongings. You're able to really emphasize the importance of not scavenging furniture that's on the curb, and you're really able to get ahead of the infestation. So instead of having to do 20 treatments and not having any potential end to the overall infestation in sight, you've now done 7 treatments and you've gotten around the infestation. So just to reiterate, when you're thinking about bed bugs, we really want you to think strategically. Think about this, inspecting around all of the infested units, or inspecting all of the units around an infested one and not just that unit itself. Remember that bed bugs have evolved to live with humans, and their behaviors are really designed to take advantage of us and our habits. And so we really need to think about what are we doing as people, and what can we and how can we take advantage of that knowledge to control the bed bug infestation. Remember, there are patterns to their movements. They're not moving around randomly. They're attracted to different chemicals, and they're looking for those chemicals in their hiding spots. And that will help them move through human systems. Really, at this point, what we're dealing with is a person problem, not a bug problem. We really need to learn how to deal with different human behaviors in helping us to control the bed bug infestation. And then again, you want to find the source of the infestation as quickly as possible and get around that source and try to limit any conditions that are favorable to the spread. And then finally, going back to what I talked about earlier, be aware of what people want, but you also need to communicate what they need. So like I said, a lot of people that we talk to are looking for information on how to control bed bugs by themselves and not really understanding that what they really need to do is to be working with a pest management professional. So I've gotten to the end of my presentation here. I think you want me to go to this slide here about the survey, but otherwise I'm open for questions at this point.
We'd like to thank Amelia for doing such a great presentation. I want to just let people know that if you got any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box over there on the left side, and If you stay with us, we're going to pull up some poll questions here in a minute. It looks like everybody's doing the survey. That's great. If anybody got any questions, this is a good time to do it. Okay, Chris, you on the line? You got anything you'd like to say?
No, Nelson did a fabulous job. Just thanks, folks, for attending, and look for future All Bugs Good and Bad webinars.
Hi, this is Amelia. I just wanted to let everyone know that if they do have questions in the future, I can once we're done with the poll here, I can put up a slide that has my email address on it, and so you're welcome to send me questions via email. You can also visit our website, which we talked about earlier, which has our contact information, and if there are any questions that come up that I'm not able to answer, I can work with Dr. Kells and make sure that you guys get the answers that you need.
I was just going to jump in as a frequent traveler, and what is your best advice for people who are checking into a hotel when they get to their room? Do you have any sort of a quick summary of what we should do?
Sure. So when people go to hotel rooms, we have a couple of things that we recommend. I don't know, different people are going to have different recommendations, but we generally say to avoid putting your luggage on the luggage valet. That's like that rack thing that is in a hotel room that people, designed for putting your luggage on. And because it's designed, and the whole point of it is to put your luggage on, that's one of the most likely places we've seen that you're going to find bed bugs in a hotel room. We recommend putting your luggage onto like a hard surface such as a table or even the top of a dresser, as these areas are much less likely to have bed bugs on them than that luggage valet. I also recommend that you can check the four corners of the mattress for signs of a bed bug infestation. But we've found in general these days that traveling is not where you're going to run into issues with bed bugs. Bed bugs are horrible for the hospitality industry. The vast majority of the people that we've worked with in hotels and casinos and other hospitality type businesses really take bed bugs very seriously and are doing a lot to combat the issue. We really see bed bugs more often than not these days in the community, and especially in communities that are having a hard, financially can't afford to deal with bed bugs. So a lot of our work is we see more in, low income, at risk type communities. With that being said, when I go to, I'm sorry, this is a little tangential, but when I go to a hotel and stay, when I travel for work or for pleasure, a lot of what I do to combat bed bugs is more in preparation than in the hotel itself. So I try to pack in such a way that anything that I take with me, I can put into the dryer when I get home. And this way, if I put everything in the dryer, when I get home, I'll know that I have, killed any potential bed bugs, and I don't have to spend my vacation time, searching my hotel room top to bottom for an infestation. I pack, clothing that is not dry clean only or that can be easily laundered. I also, pack in a duffel bag as opposed to a rolled suitcase, because then I can just put that in the laundry as well. One other thing that we talk about a lot that most people don't think about is where you're placing your electronics in the hotel room. Everybody these days travels with a lot of electronics, smartphones and computers, and if you have kids, you probably have some type of like Game Boy or something that you're traveling with. And those things are actually pretty attractive to bed bugs. Not only do we touch them all the time and thus they smell like us, they're also warm, and bed bugs are attracted to heat, and so you really want to avoid putting those items on the bed. You never want to place your laptop or your cell phone on the bed in a hotel room, because that, it could become infested. And and if it does, it becomes a real challenge to control bed bugs in those items. So that's probably a little bit longer answer than you wanted, but hopefully it answers your questions.
It does. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Does anybody else have questions?
Nelson, did we talk about this one from Catherine? In our location, we often have issues with landlords claiming that bed bugs are not a public health issue since they do not transmit disease. How do you convince landlords that bed bugs require attention?
We end up talking to landlords about not the public health aspects, but the economic and the financial aspects. So we've seen a lot of situations where property owners, they don't want to treat bed bugs, or they try to treat it, like I said, with the least expensive method, and then they end up, in the long run, it ends up costing them a lot more. So we've seen a number of situations where maybe a landlord tries to treat a bed bug infestation on their own, and they end up doing damage to their property, or if they don't treat the infestation, the tenants or the residents might try to treat it. Our program here actually got started when there was a situation here in Minnesota where a property owner was not dealing with a bed bug infestation, and the resident in that treated it on his own and ended up using a agricultural insecticide to try and control the bed bugs, and contaminated his apartment, and they ended up having to kind of tear the apartment down to the studs to decontaminate it. So the landlord ended up with $20,000 in remodel costs as opposed to $2,000 or less in control costs. And so we kind of talk to landlords about that a lot, how it's really in their best interest financially to control the bed bug infestation when it first appears, as opposed to trying to do it themselves or to wait it out. We also have situations where, here in the Twin Cities, in Minneapolis and St. Paul, where there have been situations where the city is becoming more proactive, and they will, there have been cases in which they have removed the occupancy license for a property that is notoriously infested with bed bugs. And so then again, you're getting into the financial situation where the property manager is no longer able to rent out their property because they are no longer licensed as a landlord. So for us, it's really more about talking to individuals about, their pocketbook, than as opposed to the public health issues. Did we have any other questions? All right, well, it looks like we don't have any questions, but like I mentioned, let me advance to the next slide so you guys can see my email. So here's my email address down here at the bottom. That's shin0148@umn.edu. And like I said, feel free to email me any questions you might have. And then there's our website where we have a lot of these materials, which I talked about real briefly earlier. Like I said, there's a lot of written materials. We also have we have videos that people are free to download and use in your educational efforts. And then we have a number of upcoming webinars as well. So feel free to let me know if you have any questions about those things.
Hey, thanks again, Amelia. It was a great program. We enjoyed it. And I want to thank everyone that helped out in the chat box. Doing a very good job. Appreciate it. Anybody got anything else they'd like to add before we end? Okay, I think that's the end of it. And feel free to contact Amelia at her contact information there on the screen. And thank y'all. We look forward to seeing y'all, listening to you all or chatting with you all at the next webinar next month.
All right. Thank you for inviting